I'm going to tell you what I just found out about lab-grown meat, and I can assure you, you are going to be disgusted. The source of this meat, they need fast-growing cells, replicating cells, just like when you have a farm that makes fruit from a tree. You don't want to plant a new tree every week. You want a tree that gives you a lot of fruit. And this is what they're trying to do with meat. And so what do they find? Well, there's something called an immortalized cell, also known as a HeLa cell. HeLa after Henrietta Lacks, who sometime in the 1950s had cervical cancer, and they removed her cancer cells, put them in a petri dish to see how long would they continue replicating, and they're still replicating today. So if you've already started to read in between the lines, you may guess where I'm going with this, that they realized the best source for fast replicating cells to make lab-grown meat that you're going to eat are cancer and pre-cancer cells. That means taking cancerous and pre-cancerous cells, literally, putting them as the base, and having those replicate to continue as a fast as possible pace, produce the meat that you're going to eat.
This machine is 3D printing steak. The goal is to create a piece of meat without killing a cow. And this Israeli startup is one of the dozens of companies racing to perfect the process.
It turns out that cows aren't necessarily the most efficient way of making beef.
Still, for many scientists, the holy grail is to not just imitate meat, but actually make it. Back in 2013, professor and scientist Mark Post unveiled the first lab-grown burger at a live tasting in London. This one patty cost over $325,000 to make.
It's close to meat. It's not that juicy, but the consistency is perfect.
I think that was kind of one of those like pivotal moments where you're like, oh, this could be a thing.
But it wasn't until 2020 that funding for lab-grown food really started to pour in, with some startups drawing high-profile investments from the likes of Bill Gates and even traditional meat companies.
It's like everyone wants to hop on that bandwagon.
Here's how it works. Look at this perfectly marbled steak. The white stuff is fat. That gives it flavor. The pink stuff is muscle. That's for protein. Scientists had to figure out how to recreate both. First, they take stem cells from a cow and then grow them in a lab.
That means that we're replacing the body of the animal with what's called a bioreactor.
Getting the cells to grow under these conditions is no easy task.
Usually cells are attached to something. They grow in a petri dish or flasks, and they want to attach to something.
Here, the cells grow suspended in a liquid, where they divide roughly once a day. Then scientists move the massive cells to the tissue engineering lab, where they make something called bioinks.
This is the beginning of the bioprinting stage. The inks that we're using actually contain the cells that we've been growing in the labs previously.
There's one for muscle and one for fat. They're fed through these nozzles, and technicians can customize how much of each goes into the steak.
You can print any structure that you're able to design. So you upload a file to the printer and you can present a steak of pretty much any size and also any proportions.
You can't put a patent on growing and on raising a cow. You can go buy cattle right now, right? You can go buy 8 cattle, get a huge, actually I think in Texas it's only 4, and get massive tax write-off for it first. But you could produce your own cattle, you can have it butchered, and you can eat it yourself, or you can sell it to other people. All you got to do is make sure, you have to put it through the right processing to make sure that it's not going to hurt anybody. But you can pretty much do that all you want. This right here, this fucking lab-grown meat, that is a patented process. And you can't do it unless you pay Bill Gates or whoever else owns this technology to use it third party. That's reason number one. Yeah. Reason number 2 is what I talk about all the time, and that's the king's deer, right? It's like a feudalistic principle where the good meat belongs to the aristocracy and the king, right? The warden, the governor, whomever else, and you eat fucking bugs. That's what it is, right? I want the high quality protein. You get this lab grown shit that's going to give you fucking cancer. And by the way, you got to pay us just to make the shit.